We talk it out, no time to waste. Face to face, we set the pace. Hey, hey. Love so strong, no need to race. We hold it tight in every space, making it last. Oh, making it last. Yeah, yeah. Through the future, through the past. Building it high, keeping it fast. Communication, making it last. Making it last. Oh, making it last. Yeah, yeah. Through the future, through the past. Building it high, keeping it fast. Communication, making it last.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm with Shawn Fry. It's been a challenge for us to make the connection, but it's happening, and I'm happy for that. Now, Shawn is a business coach, he's an author. And before we unpack and get into the conversation this time around, tell us a little bit about your book, Shawn.
So first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. Definitely look forward to the conversation with you here today. So the book, it's about sustained business growth. So I was turning around a flawed business model many, many years ago, and my youngest son asked me, he's like, "Dad, where do you live?" And that was like a knife to the heart, right? So that
Ouch.
that really kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I knew I was way out of balance at that time. So I knew I needed to do something different and
Mm-hmm.
find a better way to really improve the business without sacrificing those that matter most. So that's really what the book is about. Is I interviewed about 15 different high impact leaders, as well as captured stories of my own transformation, personal and professional. As I went through about so many different facilities, I've actually been in over 60 facilities, 17 different countries, and 4 different industries, and captured those best practices in the book and tried to distill that down to help those that are really trying to drive transformation without sacrificing themselves, their families, or those that matter most.
Love it. Love it.
Okay.
Love it. Which is a nice segue then into what we're going to be talking about with 7 principles that will transform your personal and professional life. Let's go ahead with principle number one.
Yeah, so principle one is peak state of mind. I think 90% of the battle is in our own mind, right? So just making
Mhm.
sure that we have clarity and really understand where is our mindset? Do we have a fixed mindset? Do we have a growth mindset? Are we already defeating ourselves? So I think it's really key that we make sure that our mindset is right and that we understand reality, but what's truth and what's possible, and be looking forward versus backwards. So
Hmm.
that peak state of mind is absolutely critical. And there's many different things I talk about in the book that kind of help, reprogramming our mind to things that help us win, right? So that's just a couple things for peak state of mind.
Okay, okay, okay. Principle number two.
So principle number two is constancy of purpose, right? So I think there's a lot of people that are driven by different things, right? Different motives. It could be money, it could be status, it could be
Hmm.
family, it could be different things, or it could be just material things. So or it could be faith, right? So I think that's really key is understanding what is the underlying purpose, that we're here to do, right? And so just understanding that higher calling, if you will, and what inspires you, what excites you, and once you can tap into that source, I think that really helps us with purpose. And just staying connected to that purpose because throughout the journey, we'll have some very high peaks and we'll have some very low valleys, and you have to really call on that purpose to get you through the valleys. So that's really what that uh, principle number two is. Principle number three is all about communication, clarity of communication. So one of the things I believe you're a communication coach, so I think that
Mm-hmm.
is fantastic. That's phenomenal. Was
Mm-hmm.
looking at some of your content and some of your website and so forth. I personally have found throughout all the transformations that I've been a part of, is it's typically most transformations fell because of lack of communication at some point in the process. And so, or lack of clarity of communication and understanding who's our audience, who are we talking to? And
Mm-hmm.
how do we make sure that they're on board, and how do we get them on board and be a part of that change versus doing it to them? So I think that's really key is that communication factor, understanding the people, understanding personalities, understanding, where people are in their journey, meet them where they are, and then how do I communicate on their terms? And that way they can join us along that journey and we create a shared vision, a shared transformation versus something that it's maybe felt that they're distant or not a part of. So I think that's really key. And then communicating often
Okay.
is really key. Yeah.
Before you say the rest though, how then do you get through to somebody who in their mind they believe that they would have clearly communicated whatever the message is, but obviously they're not getting the desired results. So how do you reach somebody like that? Because I do know, and based on my experiences, a lot of times people assume that what they've
Yeah.
said is
Yes.
really what persons have understood, and that's not necessarily so.
Yes, yes. So a great saying that really resonates with me is the message sent is not always the message received, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really key for us to be very clear, articulate in what we are asking for, the expectations, and what does this mean, and
Okay.
then check and then make sure to say, okay, does this make sense? Is
Mm-hmm.
this what you understand? Or let's gain clarification, let's gain feedback until we're in a common place that we have a common understanding. So I think that's
Good.
that check and follow up that many people, including myself, haven't
Mm-hmm.
many times that I think is really key.
Okay. So I think
Yeah.
we're at principle 4.
Principle 4, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
principle 4 is all about focus and alignment. So I have found throughout many different efforts, and including myself, is we always, many times we try to overcommit or over try to
Mm.
accomplish way too many things, and we get distracted, right? So we're just, I know myself, I'm just not that good. So the
Mm-hmm.
better we can focus on the critical few things that's going to deliver the highest impact, the higher results, well, that's where we have to just narrow that down to I would really say 1 to 3 things, not even, 5 to 10. I would say, what's the 1 to 3 critical things that are mission critical to help us achieve where we want to go? And so I think that's really, and sometimes it's very hard because there's great
Mm-hmm.
things to go do and people have great
Mm-hmm.
ideas and
Mm-hmm.
good opportunities, but it's really
Mm-hmm.
distinguishing between, the good and the great, right? So,
Yep. I love that you said that because that also then gives you clarity and helps you prioritize what you do from what you don't do. But it's a lesson that a lot of persons still haven't gotten and are yet to
yes.
get, but all right.
We talk it out, no time to waste. Face to face, we set the pace. Love so strong, no need to race. We hold it
Hi, this
tight
is Shawn
in
Fry,
every
best-selling author of
space.
Sustained
Make it
Business
last.
Growth. And you can get this at
Make it last. Yeah,
www.sustainedbusinessgrowth.com.
through the
So
future,
we're going to take a
through the
break right
past.
now, but we'll be right
Building
back.
it high.
Does your business lack branding? Having difficulty realizing your vision? Look no further. Splinth Brand Design Consultancy specializes in developing personal and business brands. Services include strategic management, website creation, social media branding, and more. Visit them online at www.wearesplint.com. Splinth, the brand you need to succeed.
I recently have been coached by the great Miss Noreen Daly.
This woman has been full of moments of, I see your potential and I see your dreams that you're afraid to dream. So let's get there and let's do it.
Noreen was the one who recognized my flaw, but she didn't leave it there. She led me along the journey of developing my communication skills.
She was able to point out some of my weaknesses that I didn't yet notice?
She exposed me to so many fundamental pillars of communication.
I pray that you have people in your life who are as supportive as she is, who are as much of a gift as she is.
And I 100% recommend Miss Noreen Daly as your coach.
The truth is, I am who I am today because of Noreen's coaching.
Find her. Seriously, find her.
Services include communications consultancy, one-on-one coaching, public speaking and debate training, leadership and team building sessions, plus much more. Visit noreendaly.com for more info. Noreen Daly, redefining the way you communicate.
From logos to flyers, business cards to invitations, J Designs is your one-stop shop for all things design related. Fast, affordable, creative, and one of a kind? Follow us on Instagram at JDesigns. Email us at jdesigns.graphics@gmail.com or WhatsApp us at 876-280-2816 and let J Designs make your creative dreams come to life.
Hey, welcome back. Very grateful to be on the podcast and have this powerful conversation with you and your audience.
Keeping it fast, communication, making it last, making it last.
Principle
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, so that focus and alignment, and then I really say maximum engagement, right? So a lot of times we can get really clear on, what's those mission critical items we can check. We can meet with our teams to make sure we're aligned, whether that's horizontally or whether that's vertically or both, really making sure across and down and up, right? So I think it's a really 360. But how do I get people truly engaged on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? And how do I get them to really feel passionate about that? Right. So how do I tap into the hearts and the minds of our team members and those around us to get excited about it? And I think it's really key to make it personal. So I think it's just, I'm used to manufacturing, right? So
Okay.
but so I've manufactured, many different items, in aerospace, automotive, defense, and so forth, and power generation and so forth. But how do you make it personal? So it's just like, well, how does our family maybe depend on some of those products, right? So maybe something related to a vehicle or a tire or something. How do you make sure that, hey, to make sure my family gets to where they need to go safely, we need to do good quality and build this product right. So let's make sure that we do this correctly because our families depend on it, right? Or in defense, thinking about those that the soldiers or those that protect us in different areas, how do we make sure that they're safe, right? So how do we, whatever we're making, whatever we're building, how do I think about like my brother or my, family member that's out there, a part of that. And so how do I make it personal? So that's just a couple things, couple of examples. That's more of a manufacturing related.
Okay.
But you can think about any other type of service. How does it really connect with the heart and the mind of our team members? Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
It does. It does. I have some questions though after you finish with
Yeah.
the principles. I think we're at 6 now and then 7, and then I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah. So principle 6 is really, it gets into, I really kind of consider overcoming adversity, right? So we know we have a vision, we have a mission, we've got clarity of communication, we've got a team involved, and I've never seen anything go extremely smooth, right? There's always some kind of setback, there's always some kind of obstacle. But in many transformations, it's really understanding those underlying factors or causes, right? So it could be a pandemic. It could be, supply chain. It could be, world economy. There's all kind of things that factor
Mm-hmm.
in. And in a business, though, you got to really understand the business model and what might be flawed in that model that may be hindering, the progress that needs to be made. So I've definitely went into different businesses and found, hey, you know what? It's not always the same model, so you have to understand that underlying model. Now that's more of a structure, but you got to
Mm-hmm.
then think about people, right? So we're always working with people, right?
Okay.
And so that's really key, is to understand different people, different teams, different leaders, what motivates them, what makes them excited, or what really drives them the wrong way. So I think it's just really understanding the relationships, as you mentioned, right? How do we build
Mm-hmm.
relationships?
Mm-hmm.
And the better we understand that, the underlying factors of what made them the way they are, why do they behave the way they do, and then how do we help them take that next step? So I think the better we understand people and relationships, that helps
Mm-hmm.
us overcome adversity when we're dealing with resistance or many other different factors. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, how did you get to seven? Why not five? Why not condense them into three? What's the thinking behind saying here are seven principles?
Yeah, that's well, there's something magic about the number seven.
Okay.
I am, so I'm actually, from a faith-based approach, and I've
Okay.
noticed seven tends to be kind of a holistic number. And so that is really what I thought about as I went through the seven, defining seven. That
Mm-hmm.
was consistent across seven principles across many of these different transformations. So I think this lines up,
Okay.
again, back to, kind of a faith-based approach. Yeah.
Okay. I recognize that earlier you said that you went through different industries. What
Yeah.
then made you think that these quote unquote business principles could then be applied on a personal level?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's a great question. And I actually had something similar to that question come across my website one time. And so this is how I answered this.
Okay.
And basically, the way I kind of looked at it is, how do I take these seven principles?
Mm-hmm.
How do I apply them to my perfect day? So in the
Mm-hmm.
book, I talk about a perfect day routine. And so I ingrain these principles into what I would call my perfect day routine. And so that's how I kind of applied it to, those seven principles that transform businesses, but it can be
Mm-hmm.
perfect day routine that includes starting out with my mindset. Well, maybe that's meditation, maybe that's prayer, maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
just being silent, kind of making sure and checking your mindset against what's truth, your truth, whatever that means to you. And then making sure you're set for the day to win. How do you visualize yourself winning that day? What does that look like? Being very clear about that. So I think that's very, very first point of it, thinking about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I usually think about like 3 hours of purposeful work, right? So I've
Okay.
talked about constancy of purpose. Well, what really ignites me? What is it that I know this is my strength? This is where I need to
Mm-hmm.
focus, where I'm going to have the biggest impact. So, how do I get about 3 hours of that purposeful work into every day? Well, then it's the networking piece of it, right? So then,
Mm-hmm.
how do I make sure that I'm tapping into the right people that I know are, gonna, we're aligned, we work well together, or I'm gonna learn, so how do I make sure and tap into those that I either learn from or I can provide or give back, so I'm developing, mentoring others. So how do I build in that networking time? I think about return on time, right? So where am I
Mm-hmm.
investing not only my time and money, but where do I make sure that I'm spending those resources the best? So that's part of it. Now, naturally, family time, right? So those are
Mm-hmm.
those that are most important to me. So how do I make sure and carve out family time to make sure that I'm giving the best that I can as a husband and as a father?
Okay.
That's a challenge, right? That's definitely a challenge. In a lifestyle that I live, I travel a lot, so I think that's really key, is carving out the time for those that matter most. and not sacrificing them. So anyway, that's part of the perfect day routine that I talk about in the book, but that's how I'm personal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. Of all of the seven, though, if you had to
Yes.
pick one as your favorite,
Yeah.
which one would that be?
Yeah, it's purpose, right? So for
Okay.
me, I think it's just really key to tap into that purpose. What's going to keep that flame lit, right? So what's going
Okay.
to keep that energy high, right? What's really excited about? Because once we kind of lose that sense of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
I think we really kind of derail and kind of go, off in different tangents, different things, and kind of lose our way. So I say purpose, but I think it is a combination between purpose and mindset.
Okay.
Um, so I think
I
it's a combination of those two.
okay. I think you've answered it, but I'm gonna ask anyway. That is
Yeah.
your favorite, but would you then say that is the most important principle?
Yeah. It is it's hard.
Hmm.
It's really between those two, purpose and mindset. I
Okay.
think are the absolute most important principles. Yeah.
Okay. As we're wrapping up though, Shawn, if you've said a lot, you've shared the seven principles, but if there is one main idea you want to leave with the listeners and the viewers, what would that main idea be?
Yeah, I think the best leaders have learned how to be successful. It's not what they achieve, it's how they achieve it, right? So I think it's about how are we building more um, purposeful relationships, purposeful lives that make an impact and a difference. It's not about just achieving, goals and metrics and things, but it's how we do that. So that's really the main idea I would just kind of emphasize with the audience.
Thank you so much for sharing. Excellent note to end on.
Yeah.
This was Make It Last podcast, so it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
We talk it out, no time to waste. Face to face, we set the pace. Love so strong, no need to race. We hold it tight in every space, making it last. Oh, making it last. Yeah. Through the future, through the past. Building it high, keeping it fast. Communication, making it last. Making it last. Oh, making it last. Yeah. Through the future, through the past. Building it high, keeping it fast. Communication, making it